Hey everyone, MacAndSwiss here, and welcome back to another episode of the Roblox Ultimate Scripting Guide. In this episode, you're going to be learning about how you can deliver messages across computers to Roblox and back to those computers using remote events. So before we jump into what remote events are, let's talk about why we need to use them. So let's say that you are right here, and you've got your little computer, and you want to talk to your friend over here who is playing the same game. And let's say that you want to talk about, or not necessarily talk about, but you want to send a message saying like, hey, I hit you with my sword, you should take damage. Now, you could just, make a connection and send a message to your friend, right? And we can say maybe like, it has information about the damage. We can say the damage type. You get the idea. So you can send all of that information to your friend's computer. And your friend will receive that message, take the information, and assume that everything is correct. So they'll just take damage. And this is normally fine. And this is what Roblox actually used to use. Instead of just you and your friend, though, it would be a bunch of other players on the server. But what happens when someone tries to change that information or cheat the system? Let's say that there's a third person right here. I'm going to add little devil horns to indicate that they're the cheater. And let's say that they're going to make a connection to your friend and you. And let's say that in that, they send a message which looks exactly the same as a message that you would send to your friend or you would send to anyone else, but this one isn't made by the game. This one is made by the cheater, and it says, take 999 damage, or give me this much gold. Well, the computer's just going to say, okay, I'll take that. Because there's no real way to know whether or not a message is from a real source, the game, or a fake source like the cheater. So Roblox's solution to this was something called FilteringEnabled. Technically all one word. And this system basically created something different. So instead of having your friends and everyone else in the server all connected together, the system was a little bit more like this. So here we'll have Roblox, and we'll have our three dudes or dudettes, whichever you prefer. And now, instead of being connected to each other, all three of you, 1, 2, and 3, are connected to the Roblox instead, and this is where your game is. So, when you send a message, you send it to Roblox, or rather your game can check the information now, and then it can send it to your friend. And if someone tries to fake a message, sure, the message still looks exactly the same. And there aren't too many ways to really check this. But if something seems a little bit strange, like this person all of a sudden was doing, let's say, 1 damage, and all of a sudden they changed to doing 999 damage, or something like that, you could add a check on the game's side to make sure that these things don't happen. So this is FilteringEnabled, and these messages, as you may have guessed, are what we call remote events. They're basically tiny messages of data, and you can send them two ways. You can send from computer to the server, or you could do it the other way around and send it from the server, or your game, back to someone else's computer. When we do this, we need to specify, at least on the server side. So let's say that you're sending something to the server. Well, you need to put down basically the data. And this could be any sort of data. So this can be a number, this can be a string, or otherwise known as a word. It can be a Boolean, whether or not something is true or false. Or it can be even something a little bit more complex, like a whole table with those values. If you're sending something from the server to a client or a computer, you actually need to specify the player. Because otherwise, how will the server know which person to send the message to? You might want to only send a message to one person, such as yourself or a friend or some other player. And they would also need to specify the data, like everything else. And it's the same exact data types that you can send straight to the server. There's also something else that you could do on the server side, and that is to all clients. And as you may have guessed, this sends the same message to every single player that is currently on the server. And this, again, all you need to add is the data. Now, to actually do all of these three, either sending it to the server, to the client, or to all clients, it's pretty much the same thing. You want to add a remote event. Generally, this will be put inside replicated storage. And the reason why we do so is because that is a place that both the game or the server and every single player, the clients, can see. If a client cannot necessarily see something, then it can't really do anything to it, can it? So that's why we put it in replicated storage instead of some place like server storage. Although obviously you can put it there, you wouldn't be able to really interact. So once you have a remote event inside replicated storage, all you need to do for either the sending something to the server, to the client, or to all clients is similar. So you want to get the replicated storage event. So it would be whatever you name your remote event to be. So I'll just put event. And now we want to send that message. And in our case, that sending action is a colon followed by fire. And you can say fire server and put your data in here. This will send a message to the server from a local script with the data inside. You can also do fire client from a server script, and you need to put the player, and this is not the player name, but the actual player, along with the data. Or if you want to send a message to all, you do the same colon, and you can do fire all, not capital, fire all clients, and you put in the same data. So this is to send the information. Now, well, in order for it to work, we also need to receive that. So let's talk about receiving data. In order to receive data, it's very, very similar. We'll say, or we'll call the event again. Again, you'll need to name this yourself. And instead of a colon like we did with sending, we're actually going to use a dot. And after that, we're going to say on client event. If this was on a server, we could say dot on server event. After that, we are going to add a colon and a connect. After this, we'll have some sort of function in here. Now, you can create your own function in here by doing just function followed by 2 parentheses and then an end. Or you could create another function outside of this block, this line, and you can put in the function name in here. Either one works perfectly fine. So this is pretty much the basics of remote events. Why they are important in today's world of Roblox and a lot of cheating. What they are: tiny messages of data that can be sent between computers and Roblox, and how to send and receive those messages using Fire and on client or on server event. So that's going to be it for today's tutorial. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, my name is MacAndSwiss, the most Asian brony on the internet, and I'll see you all next time.